Stop what you're doing right now and check out my picks for this video in the description section below. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Brock Page, and I don't know anything about sports handicapping. I'm also still doing random sports picks for fun, and you might be surprised as to who I'm picking in the NBA today. With all that in mind, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into some NBA playoff picks for the 15th. We're starting out with the Eastern Conference. Saturday's game, I'm talking about Indiana, plus 8.5 at Cleveland, with the total points moving slightly downward to 212.5. Currently, the Cavs are heavily favored, laying 440 on the money line. And at the moment, 58% of the bettors think Indiana's getting the job done. Speaking of the Pacers, they did get real hot toward the end of the year, covering their final 6 games and winning 5 of them outright. They're also facing a Cleveland team who sputtered into the playoffs, losing their last 4 straight and covering just one of those matchups. Having said all that, Indiana only covered 16 of 41 on the road this year and just 39% as the official road underdog. On a lighter note, 2 out of Indiana's last 3 games have gone over the line. On the other side, Cleveland's last 4 consecutive games have all gone over the line as well. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think the Cleveland Cavs at minus 8.5 explode on the Pacers at home and get the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I think this one goes over 212.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think the Cavs win it. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Indiana plus 15.5 as the first pick of my 8-point teaser. Next game, Milwaukee at Toronto. The betting opened up with the Raptors as the 6.5-point favorites and the total points at 203.5. Since then, Toronto's now minus 7 against the spread, with the total dropping down to 201.5. Currently, the Raptors are favored, laying 300 on the money line, and at the moment, just 49% of the bettors think Milwaukee will actually get the job done. Speaking of the Bucks, they struggled against the number when facing Toronto, failing to cover in 3 of 4 matchups head-to-head. They also covered just 12 of 31 as the official road underdog. They're facing a Toronto team who finished the year very well, covering 2 of their last 3. On a side note, 2 out of both teams' last 3 games have gone under the total posted points. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I'm in full agreement with the bettors on this one. I think Toronto at minus 7 will get the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm once again in full agreement with the bettors there as well, as I think this one stays under 201.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think Toronto wins it. Let's go ahead and slide into the Western Conference. It sounds like somebody's making packages out there. It's a little noisy. All right, Memphis plus 9 at San Antonio with the total points moving slightly downward to 191. Currently, the Spurs are heavily favored, laying 500 on the money line. And at the moment, 51% of the bettors think Memphis will get the job done. Speaking of the Grizzlies, they've had unparalleled success against the number when facing the Spurs, going an unblemished 4-0 against the spread. Heads up, they're facing a Spurs unit covering just 38% against teams around 500. On a side note, both teams have gone over the line in 2 of their last 4. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I'm once again in full agreement with the bettors. I think Memphis at plus 9 will get the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total point, I think this one barely goes over 191. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think San Antonio wins it in a close one. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Memphis plus 17 as the second pick of my 8-pointer. And that is going to take us into our next and final game for the show. Utah plus 5 at the LA Clippers with the total points at 200.5. Currently, the Clippers are laying 200 on the money line. And at the moment, 50% of the money's on Utah to get the job done. Speaking of the Jazz, they've struggled against the number all year long, and more recently failed to cover 3 of their last 4. They're also a putrid 0-9 against the number in games at the current spread. In addition to all that, the Jazz failed to cover in 3 out of 4 matchups with the Clippers. On a side note, 2 out of both teams' last 4 games have gone over the total points. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick, as I think the LA Clippers -5 will get the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I think this one goes over 200.5. When it comes to money line, just check out the picks in the description below. Just a reminder, my 8-point Sweetheart Super Teasers pay 5 to 6. Get graded as a loss should any game result in a push. You can find this exotic wager in several online sports books and in the state of Delaware. Sorry about that, guys. Well, folks, that is going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you, I'm not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page predictions and sports picks, I'm Brock Page. Have yourself a positive day.